Hey, I'm Tommy. And as the Airshow 2025 season draws to a close, we ran into a bit of a snag with these final air shows in terms of their lineup and who's going to be performing. The reason why is we are now experiencing a government shutdown in the United States. This heavily affects our military demonstration lineup and essentially grounds all of those performers. So in this video, I want to talk about what occurs and causes the government shutdown, what is affected in terms of what aircraft will now no longer be performing at these air shows, and how a lot of the air shows are responding, up to and including a few examples of some of the more recent air shows that had to get this kind of thrust upon them really quickly without any warning in such a short amount of time, and how they handled the situation. Hopefully this will be a really informative video for you. I know a lot of air show photographers that I've spoken to didn't even know that this was occurring and could be affecting the next future air shows in the coming weeks here. So let's go ahead and get right into it. All right, so let's talk about the government shutdown. So every fiscal year, Congress has to get together and decide the budget for that upcoming fiscal year. If Congress can't come to a resolution and get that bill passed, then the federal government shuts down due to lack of funding. What this means for employees is any non-essential employees essentially get laid off, and because the programs are just simply not running anymore. And any essential employees, the ones that have to keep the operations moving, such as national defense and critical systems like that, then they work, but they just happen to work without pay. Now, I don't know if they get backfill pay or not, but they are just in a bad situation either way, because they have to now work without any money coming in. This affects more than just the military. This, we're thinking like the National Park Service, the different federal programs like the post office, I believe, and a few other anything that's controlled by the federal government is essentially shut down for the time being. What that means for us as airshow photographers is military demonstration teams, which are obviously a non-essential service, right? They're designed for recruitment and entertainment, and just overall inspiration. They're not exactly critical for defense systems and the day-to-day operations of the U.S. government military. So military demo teams are one of the first things to be canceled. So they're no longer in operation, which means they will no longer show up on your airshow lineup. So when I say military demonstrations are grounded, this is not a clickbait title. Blue Angels is among those military demonstration teams, right? The Navy Blue Angels will no longer be performing. The U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds will no longer be performing. F-22 Raptor, F-35 Lightning, F-18, the Rhino and the Super Hornets, they will no longer be performing. But it's not just fighter jets, right? There's like the Coast Guard helicopters with their ocean demo rescue teams, and those are gone from this performance lineup. The different paratrooper teams, such as the Golden Knights and the Black Daggers and the Navy Leapfrogs, all of those are off the roster. And even the heavies, such as the C-5, the C-130, the KC-135, all these different aircraft that you are pretty much used to seeing at a lot of these air shows and almost expect them on the lineup, are now unfortunately unable to perform in these air shows until the government can come back online. So as long as this government shutdown occurs, the military demonstration teams are heavily affected and will not be on display. Speaking of display, static aircraft are also affected. You will not see military static aircraft on display either in the flight line or any of like the Navy boats in the sea shows or anything like that. If it has to do with the U.S. government military, you will no longer see them at these air shows, and that is really unfortunate. Now, government shutdowns are a pretty big deal, obviously, but they usually only last like a couple days. It doesn't take long for Congress to be like, oh, we really need to get moving on this. Let's make an agreement, and then we can send this up to the president to sign it off and continue our operations. So on average, if a government shutdown does occur, it's only like a couple days, like 2 or 3 days. The longest ones that we've had previously were in 2013. We had a 16-day long government shutdown, and then the longest one on record is from 2018, at like the end of 2018 to the beginning of 2019. We had a 35-day shutdown, which is over a month long. At the time of recording this video, we had the government shutdown start on October 1st, and this is now October 15th. So the government shutdown's already at the 15-day mark, which means any air shows within the last 15 days have not had any military demonstration teams on the lineup. So I guess you're probably thinking, well, I bought a ticket to this air show. Is it even going to happen now? The answer is most likely. So yes, some air shows do cancel and they will refund your money or make your ticket good for the next year's air show so that you don't have to buy a ticket for that following year. If you already purchased a ticket for this year, 2026, they'll be good to go. But a lot of air shows will just adjust their lineup as best as they can and allow the show to continue. This does leave a lot of fans disappointed, unfortunately, especially if all they did was reduce their lineup and they didn't expand it with new acts. But you got to keep in mind that air shows can perform with civilian acts and like the different warbirds are still an option. There's the other kinds of skydiving teams. I know like the Remax parachute team, for example, is a parachute team that is not affiliated with the military. The Red Bull demonstration teams, such as their stunt helicopters and some things like that, those will still be, if they're on the lineup, they're still on the air show roster there. Some air shows will actually, if the proximity is close enough, some air shows will allow foreign military, which still has their funding and operations, to perform at their air show. I'll give a couple examples here in a minute. I have them written down, but yeah, you're still gonna see some pretty good stuff. You'll see some really good propeller planes. You'll see some really good skydiving acts. If there's like jet trucks on the lineup, those are still civilian performers. The jets are like the trucks that just have a big jet engine and shoot all this fire out the back. Those will still be an option. Speedboats, if it's a sea show, there's a lot of different things that can still happen. You're just not going to get the standard thing that that you're used to, such as jets flying overhead or big headliner performances for the most part. So yeah, so like I said, we're 15 days into this government shutdown that's happening right now. So we'll go ahead and get into, I have like written down right here on my iPad, we'll have some examples of what some of the air shows that had just occurred, that have been going through this shutdown, made their changes. Some of them just reduced the lineup, some of them made some pretty drastic changes to make the air show as great as they can. So the first one on the list was the Atlanta Air Dot show. The Thunderbirds were grounded due to the shutdown, and organizers confirmed that no military teams otherwise would fly. They actually listed this on their website, so make sure you check the event that you're planning to go to and check that website out to see if they list it as well. The show still went on with civilian acts such as vintage warbirds, parachutes, and private jet teams. So they still got a pretty decent show out of it. It was just reduced. There's a California show called San Francisco Fleet Week. The Blue Angels were supposed to perform there, and some U.S. Navy ship demonstrations out in the ocean. Those were all pulled, but in their place, they actually brought the Canadian Snowbirds, tapped as the new headliners for that air show, and alternate performers such as the Patriots jet team and civilian acts wound up filling in those empty spaces that the military could no longer perform in. And then the other air show was the Pacific Air Show in Huntington Beach, California, and half of the show's scheduled military acts were grounded because of the funding issues. However, a couple air show I believe a couple military acts were already funded previously, so they were able to still perform, but most of that air show was heavily reduced, and they did not have the time to be able to implement different acts into the thing. So what this does mean is, like, fans could show up expecting big things if they didn't hear any of the news and the changes and the government is still shut down. They could be expecting these big acts and then get really disappointed because, you know, even if alternate performers do exist, they're there to see, like, the Thunderbirds perform, and they can't. So yeah, so a lot of marketing gets lost, a lot of local businesses lose revenue. It's not a good time for anybody involved. And then of course the you know, harassment of getting refunds and stuff from the air shows if you bought a ticket might be a pretty big issue as well. Okay, so that's pretty much everything I could describe in terms of the government shutdown, what kind of military aircraft are affected, whether or not the air shows are going to even potentially perform and continue on with their roster or change their roster, or even just shut down completely. And yeah, let me know your own experiences on this government shutdown in regards to what air shows you have planned coming up, or if you just attended an air show like the ones I just mentioned during this government shutdown, and what has changed and what did the air show do, you know, in terms of your own experience. I would love to hear that in the comments below, just out of my own curiosity. I plan on going to 2 more air shows within this bubble of potential government shutdown. Next, like a week or so from now, is 2 air shows, one in Orlando and one in Jacksonville. One of them's got the Thunderbirds, one of them has the Blue Angels, and if this government shutdown continues, neither of them are going to be able to perform. So I haven't experienced this myself yet. Hopefully everybody now is aware of this. I know several airshow photographers that I'm friends with didn't have a single clue about this until I was looking into it. So I figured this is a great time to put up that video, and I hope you learned a lot. If you did, please give me a like. It'll help either YouTube algorithm help these videos get around, or it'll just make me feel better. I'm not sure. But and if you want to see more of the videos, go ahead and hit that subscribe button as well. And if you just want to check out my own air show work, go ahead and follow that Instagram right here. You could also send me a message on that Instagram. I do respond as much as I can on that. So anyway, hope you can get out to these air shows, whether the government takes away your military demonstration teams or not. Hopefully you could still have a good time out there, get some good photos, and enjoy your show. So let's close out this Air Show 2025 season on a high note. So here's to the government coming back online, funding working, and everything performing as normal. All right, anyway, talk to you later. Have a good one. See ya.